a little intro. Sorry, I have a cold right now, so I'm gonna sound like a transgender, but I'm from Seoul, everybody. My name is Soomin, and this is my exhibition, my first debut in the United States. It's a big deal. Thank you so much for Dana for making it happen. So I'll start the tour. Can anybody read this, please, for me? Yeah. Yeah.
Love is just not for everybody.
Oh, wow. Your Korean is super good. So this song, it says 사랑은 아무나 하나, and it says it 3 times because that's a lyric from a very old Korean music called, I can't remember what it's called, but it goes like 사랑은 아무나 하나. Like that's a chorus, and it's asking people about how they define love. You know, is love really for anybody? Like, can anybody just go out on the street and find it? And then he comes to the conclusion that no, it isn't. Like, you can't, it's not for anybody. It's just for people that are ready for it, like people who are able to give love, that can have love. And so I took it out of the lyrics, and I thought this would be pretty good because this music, I've heard so much of it shooting all these people on the streets and in the barbershops and their pharmacies, because this is their kink, this is their music, this is what they grew up with, and they always like sing along to it, and I would hear their different versions of different lyrics of it. Like they would change it a little bit because their memory's so bad though, not because they're original and like creative. But so yeah, this song is what I'm always like, it always plays behind me, like in my head when I'm like thinking about these people. And I decided to do a neon sign of it because I mean, yes, like it's all traditional photography, street, black and white, film photography, but I'm young and I'm a girl, and I feel like I shouldn't have to hide behind it. And I acknowledge the fact that I'm an outsider that cannot really relate fully with this older generation, but the reason that I'm doing this is because I kind of want to learn a lesson from them and kind of document what is kind of fading away before it really dies out, like literally, because they're really old now, so. Anyway, and this is the first series that I wanted to post here because this is one of the first pictures that I took when I started street photography. And I chose to go around this neighborhood because it's a park that's called Elderly Men and Pigeons, because that's literally the only things that you can find when you go there. Like no young people, no women, no dogs, just pigeons for some reason. And so when I stepped in there, everybody would turn their head and look. It's just like some kind of a, like, it was weird. It was like, everybody was looking at me like, what is she doing? Is she lost? Like, is she okay? Like, should we help her? And I mean, I used to go back every week or something, so they got used to me, so they stopped looking at me. And then I stumbled upon these 3 men, and they were always together. And I recognized them because of this guy's hat, like the cowboy fedora hat. And I realized that every time I saw them, they weren't talking. They were just sitting together and smoking. And I was like, that's interesting. Like when you meet up with friends, it's because you kind of want to socialize and you want to talk, but they're just like not saying anything. I wonder why. And then I asked them, I was like, so how long have you guys been friends for? Like, I started talking to them, and like, they weren't really close. And then I started asking them, I was like, then why do you hang out with each other? And they said, because they're the ones that are alive. So for them, like, they're the friends with the kind of people that are alive, not based on like, we get to talk, or we like the same kind of drinks, we like the same kind of music, but just for the fact that they're alive because all their friends are dying. And I thought that was kind of a unique way to look at friendship, because now I feel like we're so picky about who we're friends with. Even like old friends, we say, oh yeah, like she changed so much. Now she's a complete different person. I can't hang out with her anymore. That doesn't apply to them because, friendship is with anybody that's alive and walking. And then this picture I like because if you look closely, there's a picture of Mao, and like it looks like such an old photograph. People keep asking me if this is like not my photograph and if it's from the 1960s. And I actually took this like 2 years ago only. And this is the kind of thing that I want younger generations to know, that just because we don't know that it's there doesn't mean that it's not there. It's still going on. And it's kind of our responsibility to keep continuing it. And if we don't, it will really, really die out. And it was interesting because the foot of this guy, he was reading out the Chinese characters, because Korean people used to use Chinese characters a lot before Korean was invented. And he was reading a story from like an old relic, and he was saying how there was a king who slept with all his 300 servant ladies, and his back broke because of so much fun he had. And then he would be writing it down based on how he told the story. And the craziest thing is what's written here is so different from what's written here, because the way you tell the story and the way that people interpret it is so different. So basically the way that I'm telling you my stories now, it would be very different from how you're perceiving my photography. And one of the things that I realized was that in this time now, I am able to witness people writing in like crazy Chinese characters. But in my age, when my kind of generation gets old and they're in this park with the elders, they're going to be doing crazy hip-hop, K-pop music, and people are going to be writing in alphabets. And I thought that was kind of sad because that's not the essence of our culture. And so I decided to depict that. And that's a very good opening because that's how, like, you know, my whole exhibition right now is about nostalgia. And so we'll move on. There's more. And this guy, I walk past him a lot because he lives near my studio, and he always comes out with his dog, and he usually wears a fedora, but this time he wasn't, and he would literally like do this, like my lady, and then he would put it back on his head, and that's not a very Korean thing to do, or at least not anymore. It was very like in the 50s, like during the colonization when we were getting in like the US Army and we're getting all the gentlemanly stuff. But he was doing that, and that's like the first time I was treated as a lady in Korea, and I was like, oh my God, I feel like such a lady. And then I was like, but I am a lady. So he reminded me of that kind of like chivalry and like all of those kind of gentlemanly stuff. And he listens to that music a lot, the music that the lyrics are from. He always has it on repeat, like a loop. I feel like his tape is gonna go like all wound up, it's gonna die out. But I don't even know where the cassette tape is because he hides it somewhere in his jacket. And I know music is coming out, but I feel like it's in his organs or something. Like, I never see it. I can't, yeah, oh, it's from the dog. Maybe he has a collar. Maybe, oh.
They have the same face.
They do, they, oh my God, they do. It's really cute. And the funniest thing is he's very gentlemanly up there, but like look at his slippers. It's so ratchet. And I'm just like, yeah, you wanted to look good, but then you couldn't like be bothered with the shoe. Like that was like the last thing you had to do when you came out of the house, but I guess you forgot it. But yeah, but he's an amazing person. He always says hi, and I feel like my day isn't complete when I don't see him, because sometimes he would leave his chair because like, of course he has to go to the bathroom, he has to eat. And sometimes when I see the empty chair, I'm just like, oh. And then I take a moment and I sit in his chair. And there was a moment when he saw me and he was like, what are you doing there? That's my chair. And I was like, oh, sorry. And then this lady, she is such a piece of work. Okay, so she was walking towards me and she was holding this fake flower. I don't know why. It was not an authentic flower. And she was holding it, the artificial flower, and I was like, oh, that flower is so pretty. And then she said, oh, you think it's pretty? Thank you. As if I was saying she was pretty or something. And then I was like, oh, but you're pretty too. And then she was like, oh, do you want to take pictures of me? And I said, all the time. And then she was like, you know what, come to my house. And I was just like, okay, if you were a man, I wouldn't, but you're a very cute lady, so I would. And then I followed her, and she told me like her house was crazy. It was packed with pictures of herself. She was an old maid and like an old virgin. She'd never married anybody, but she was very pretty when she was young, and she was a model, like when she was in university. And it's very rare for women in her generation to go to university. And so she was there, and she was a model. So she was like really popular, but I don't understand why she didn't get married, or like I didn't get to hear all those stories. But she started to give me she gave me a cup of coffee, but I can't drink coffee, but I downed it anyway, and then I felt so hyper. So I was like talking a lot, and I can't really remember the details, but she had a cup of her own, but it was empty, no coffee. And I was like, why aren't you drinking? Do you want a bit of my coffee? And she was like, models can't hold coffee in their cups because we can't tire out. We have to pose for you. So that was like her method from back in the days of modeling. And then she was like, you know, if you want my legs to look longer, you should kneel down and take the picture. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, okay, fine. How'd you know I didn't major in photography? Is that like you trying to like teach me all the tips? And I did. And then she was like, no, lower. And I was like, oh, okay, okay. And the funny thing is, like, I went past her again, and then she was like, oh, like, no, oh. She keeps saying, young person. I'm just like, you know my name. Why would you call me that? That's not a real thing. Like, you know, I'm gonna age. I feel pretty old compared to all these babies like walking around. And she called me like, young person, you're so pretty because you're young. And I was like, okay, that's creepy, but I get that you want to be young. And then we have this term called 할머니, which is like grandmother, but we call it not to our grandmothers, but like to any elders. And I said 할머니, and she's like, oh, I guess I am a 할머니. And that made me sad because, you know, women always want to be young women. Like we always want to be pretty. And it kind of like made me feel like, oh, empathetic. Maybe when I get to her age, I wouldn't like people calling me 할머니. Maybe I'll smack their asses for calling me 할머니. And this picture is, so this hill is where I go home, and I used to see her every day, but now her husband replaced her seat. I don't know why. I don't talk to her husband because he looks kind of really scary. Like, he has this grumpy face, kind of like hers actually. I guess lovers do become alike. But she was very memorable because when I took her picture, she was really mad at me for taking it. But she was one of the people that cried the most when I printed her picture and gave it to her. She was very emotional, and I didn't understand why until she told me that she hasn't had her photographs been taken for a long time. And she felt like she was being given a very, you know, good opportunity, like a spotlight, an affection, that somebody would take time to take pictures of her. And yeah, I miss her because I don't see her anymore. She used to sell a lot of random fruit. Sometimes she would have mango, sometimes she would have coconut, and like nobody would buy it. Yeah, it's weird. I don't understand how she still owns a truck, but no, because I never had cash. I should have, but I will next time I go back. And this guy, so this says pharmacy in Korean, yak, and that's also yak. He's the owner of this pharmacy, and this is one of the most hip and coming area for the elders. This is where everybody goes to chill, and like if you don't get in there, like if you're not invited, you're kind of like a loser. Like, so yeah, like I don't think there's a cover for it, but like you have to be sick, I guess. And I see a lot of people in there, and I was trying to take pictures, and then he like looked at me, and he's like, "What are you doing? You're not old enough to come inside." It was like he was kind of like giving me that vibe, and I was like, "Oh." And I have this trick with elders when I take their pictures and they look mad. I always say, "You look like you walked out of a 1970s movie. You look like such a gentleman. We don't have that anymore. Like all the young little dorks." And then they love you for that. They're like, "Oh, you appreciate, you know, me. Like you appreciate a good gentleman." So he was like, "So what are you doing here?" I said, "I want to take a picture of you." And he let me. And the wind blew, and his hair was like all like, you know, messed up. I loved it. His tie. It's so dynamic. But he's so stoic. Like he's just there. That's who he is. He doesn't care if his, you know, like ties are flying about. Like he doesn't care. And he was so confident. And I took it, and I gave him his picture too. And he was one of the most chic people. Like he was so chic about it. He was like, huh, seen better ones. Like, I was like, damn, okay, I'll try better. Sir, good sir, I'm sorry. Okay, so this guy, this is, I don't go there as often as I do these places, but I would pass by often. And I never knew there was a man standing there every day until I fell, and I was so embarrassed. And luckily there was nobody, but I heard a voice. "Are you okay?" And I got freaked out, and I saw him looking down at me. He was like, I was like, "When were you there?" And he was like, "I've been here like every time you pass by. How come you haven't seen me?" I was like, "You were hiding behind all those flowers." And this is like, it was kind of like summer going to autumn, so like all the leaves that were falling off, but like in the summertime, it was full of bushes, so I would not be able to see him. But yeah, that's the story. I was so freaked out, I almost dropped my camera. But now we say hi. Now I say, like, I look up to see him. So we're friends, we're good. This old lady, she's quite a character too, because she was reading a newspaper, and I pass by her all the time. Like, she is like 5 blocks away from her, so like it's on the same street. And she's always on her chair, and she has her own designated chair, even though it doesn't say her name. She has a brick on it, which means like, "Oh, I'm going to the bathroom. Don't like ever sit on it. Like, don't you bitches think about like at all sitting on it. Only my ass will sit on here." That's the kind of vibe she has. And then I was like, "Oh, can I take a picture of you? Because I like the socks that you hang up." And she laughed. She's like, "That's embarrassing. Don't take it in." And I was like, "Okay, I'll crop it out." But obviously I didn't. photographers always lie. They're like, oh, don't worry, you look great in the picture, when they don't. But, and then she was like, oh wait, I want you to take a picture of this specific page. So she rummaged through it, and then she got this page, and so apparently she's a part of a cult religious group. So there's a big, Jehovah's Witness? Yeah. There's something like that in Korea too. It's huge, apparently. Apparently one of my friends was from there, and I realized later, and that was kind of scary because she disappeared. I think they took her. I don't know what happened, but
She went to be with God.
yeah, exactly. Well, I wasn't that close to her, but still, it was like one of those moments. And then she's the second person from that cult group that I've ever witnessed. And this is the words from that cult group. It says, God is love, and he taught us roughly but with care. That sounds really kinky, but like that's what it says. That's basically the message. Yeah, God's love, hot love. And she wanted me to take a picture of her with it, which was weird. But ever since then, I kind of stayed away from conversing with her because I was like, are you trying to convert me? But I miss her. She's crazy. This is actually a pharmaceutical, like a bag from a pharmacy. So like, the funny thing is, this town that I live in, it's very gentrified, but it's become gentrified because the rents are really cheap, and it's cheap because only elders live there. And like in the town bus, it's packed with old people. And the only thing that they talk about is the pharmacy, what kind of medicine they're taking, which doctor is good, which doctor sucks. And they exchange all this information about like when to go so they would see you. And like, so when I get sick, I have no worries. Like, I know where to go. Like, I got it down. Like, if my leg is hurting, if I have rheumatism, or like if I can't hear stuff, or if my eyesight's going bad, I know where to go. I know the perfect people to call. Yeah. Like it rained today and my knees hurt a little bit, I might need it. So, yeah. And then this guy, he's amazing. So he was double deniming it, as I told you. He was just like Kobe right now. Yeah, he was double deniming it. Yeah. Denim. And that day, weirdly, I was double deniming it too. I was double D'ing it. And I saw him. I was like, oh, cool. Yeah, we're matching. Like, oh, I want to get a couple shot, like a couple selfie. And he had earphones on, and I was like, oh, I wonder what kind of music they listen to. Like I grew up in a family where like we always had music, and I learned English through like Elton John, Billy Joel, Carpenters, like all those oldies. And my dad used to love John Denver and everybody, like Don McLean. And so I was like, oh, maybe they listen to like older songs. And I asked him, I was like, oh, what kind of songs are you listening to? And he didn't say anything, but he like beckoned me, and then we went into this place where his friend was working at. His friend is really old too. It's like a glass, like an optical shop. And then he would like get his denim jacket out, and then he took out this CD player, like a massive one. And then in the next pocket, he had like a bunch of CDs that he was like going through, and then he was like, oh, you know what, this is it. And he played it. And it was John Denver. And it reminded me of my dad a lot. And it was just like, like very nostalgic. And so I got to talk to him, and I asked him, like, what is something that you miss that you don't have around here anymore? And I thought he would say, like vinyls or like phones that you kind of like, yeah, do that, and then you call. But he said, like, without a doubt, like without even like the slightest moment of like thinking, he said, my first love. And I was like, that hurts, that in a really good way. And then I was like, what about your current wife? And he said, she knows about it. Yeah, she can't do anything about it. It's in my heart. And like, he taught me a lot. And yeah, I have beer with him a lot. We have those Sobek things that I made you guys a lot. We share that, and we had a lot of like fried chicken together. And I feel like it's amazing because I feel like the younger we are, we're more kind of, when we see people, we kind of categorize them. We're like, oh, they're older than us. We can't talk to them. Or like, we should be respectful. But people who are really, really like over that whole thing of categorizing people, they're down to be friends with you. He calls me like his friend. Like he would introduce me to all his friends as his friend. And when somebody says, is that your granddaughter? He gets so mad. He's like, do you think I'm that old? And in my head, I'm like, hell yeah. But yeah, he says, this is my friend. I don't know her name, but she does photography, and you might look good in her photography. Like, and we never really exchange each other's names. That's a crazy thing. I don't know how old he is exactly. I don't know his name. He doesn't know mine either. But it still works, and we still, like, whenever we meet up randomly on the street, we don't always, like, you know, set it up. But when we meet, like, he asks, like, do you have time? And I say, yeah, of course. And we always just have beer. And I feel like nowadays we're like, do you have time? We say, can I take a rain check? Like, oh, let's meet up later. You know, like, we make excuses, but, like, people like that, yeah, we're very tight. Mm-hmm. And this is just like a bit, I thought there was so many people, and I didn't want to bombard you with people. So I had a selection of chairs that they would sit in. So this is like, it's very empty, and it's very, very, very wrecked, you know, these chairs. But they don't care about it because it's just on the streets, and, you know, they're just thankful that they have a place to go all the time. And like, at first I heard that there were chairs here because when they were going to and from the town, they needed a place to rest, and there weren't that many benches out here. But now it became like a social area. And I like the dynamic of how, like, anthropology works. Like, you know, like, you set something there without an intention. Yeah, and then it gains purpose. Yeah, so we'll move on to the barbershop section. This is a barbershop series, and actually those series are my first barbershop series. So I had this for a while. And this is a barbershop around in the corner of my area. It's very hip and coming too, because this guy, he's very confident about his technique. He doesn't use those like electric things. He only does it by hand, and he brags about it all the time. Like, you're so sick of listening to it that you go in the shop by saying, oh, the master who uses his hand, so he will shut up about it, you know, like, so that he won't talk about it anymore. And then, like, and when I first met him, I was trying to take a picture of him from outside because I knew, like, he looks scary. Like, you know, people in Korea who are only bold in that area, they're known for, like, their, like, anger management issues. Like, apparently it's because you have so much steam coming out of your head that you're bold over here. So I was like, okay, he is definitely someone that I don't want to talk to. So yeah, I was taking a picture from outside, and then I was, like, doing this, not even, like, focusing it because I was too short. And then he, like, banged open the door, and he was like, what are you doing? And I was like, and I used that trick again that I told you earlier. You look like you're from the 1970s movie. You're so handsome. Oh, my God. And then it wouldn't work on him. Like, see, that's how, like, hot-headed he is. He was like, no. You know how many people try to, like, come in and take pictures and use it on the internet? And I was like, what's internet? Like, I'm not good on it. Like, I don't have a phone. Because that time I lost my iPhone because I was clubbing that week earlier. And I was using a really old phone, like a flip phone. So I showed him my phone. I was like, is this internet? And I played dumb, and he was like, oh, okay. You can come in. You're one of us. And then I got into that social group, like, you know, like the secret society. And then it was funny because these two men, apparently they're very regulars, but they're getting their hair dyed. And how often do you need your hair dyed? Seriously, because if you're regulars just for hair dyes, you seriously have an issue. Like, your hair is like a chameleon, like it changes color all the time. But, like, they're always there. And the funniest thing is they won't talk. They're so silent, but they just love the company. It's not because they like the person, because if they did, they would talk to each other, but they actually think they're annoying, but they just want to feel human warmth. That's why they're there. That was funny. And he's such a talker. He's, like, talking all the time, and they're, like, saying, mm-hmm, uh-huh, wow, oh, yeah, mm-hmm, and they're dozing off. But I actually listened to him, and he said to me, he was like, Itaewon, which is the area that this is in, he said, this is the last yolk left, yellow yolk. And I was like, I had no idea what that meant. But I think it meant that it's like, you know, the essence, because, like, in a oh.
So it's going to crack.
Is it a thing?
Nah, but I just kind of guessed.
Oh, you deep. Okay, that must be it. Because he was telling me to, like, invest in it, like, money-wise. Yeah. Like real estate.
Buy the old people apartments, make some trendy hipster condos.
All right, bim bam, silver tongue.
Take the LA knowledge back to Seoul.
Oh, I should start it. Okay, oh, that's a good business. Airbnb just for like $50. But yeah, and yeah, that's what the story's about. And I was gonna come here just with this, But then I was like, oh, you know what? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I had another one. I was like, that's not enough. And I kind of want to explore more of the barbershops. And so I was having coffee with my friend, and I was like, you know what? I think you need a haircut, dude. And he's like, what do you mean? Like, I love my 2-block style. Like, no, you definitely need a haircut. Let's go. And I brought him here. So, and he really thought I was going to take him to a designer shop, you know, like all those fancy places. But I took him here, and he's like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I do not trust this. Like, yeah. And I was like, oh, come on, I'll pay for it. And he's like, yeah, you're going to pay for it. And then we went in, and thank God to my camouflage of the guy who wanted the haircut, they weren't really bothered by the fact that I had a camera inside. And I got to hear like all the crazy stories they were talking about. There were so many crazy stories. Some people were cheating on their wives and talking about it. Yes, it was crazy. They were talking about how like tonight they were gonna meet this girl, and then they're old and they're still doing it. So I was like, wow, you have a lot of stamina, or like, is it the Viagra talking, or I don't know, but wow, yeah, stallions. And my friend, he loved his haircut though, and it was really cheap. It was $2. Whereas normally it would be $30 in Korea to get a haircut for men. So he was like, oh, I'm definitely coming here more often. Like, he became a regular. So I told him to take me whenever he went. Yeah, so now I have a regular too. But yeah, this guy, like, look at all this damp, like, cloth hanging around. He's so messy, but like, he just doesn't give a shit. Like, that's his life, like, you know, like, and it's like a cave. When you go inside, it's so dark. I don't understand how he can cut the hair because it's so dark, he can't really. I feel like he has a lot of like hand cuts, like with the scissors. But yeah, he told, and I asked him, I was like, isn't it too dark for you? Can I turn the light on? Because I can't photograph you here. And he's like, dude, I can cut hair with my eyes closed. And I kind of wanted to challenge him to do it, but then I can't take the picture, so I said no. And then maybe I should do it when I get back. And so like these things, people keep asking what these are. So, you know, like when you put dye on your hair, like it drips on. So like you put shaving cream on it so that it won't fall. Yeah, that's what it is.
Shaving cream.
Yeah.
I never thought about
It's like double use for like shaving cream. You know, like the shaving cream that could be boring turned into like kind of like a hair stopper. Like yeah, very original. Yeah. But they were rocking it. They were just like, yeah. Exactly. And then this is just like a series of, I feel like none of them really talk that much. They grunt a lot. They're like, ugh, like, and they cough like I'm doing. But I'm sorry, but that's only because I have a cold. And this is a series. This man, he was standing in front of the mirror for like a good hour that I was in there, from the beginning to the end. And he was doing everything. He was cleaning his ears out. Like he was like doing an earwax thing, and then he was doing his brows, and he was doing like his mustache. He was doing his hair. He was doing everything here. And it just reminded me of like how like teenagers, when they go to a party, they like, you know, spend hours. But you kind of always invite your friends to do it. Like there is always that one friend who you think is ready. That's why you go to their house and they're like in their pajamas and like, why is she getting ready? And they're like, oh, I'm gonna get ready now. Just put some music on and be there. I have booze in my refrigerator. Like that's the kind of friend that, you know, I had.
He wanted to get ready in front of
everybody. He needed the attention, yeah, to meet his girl. And then this guy was also taking forever to put his coat on. I feel like they really don't want to leave this place. Like he was like buttoning every button, like rebuttoning it and like polishing it, and then he took out the hat and like he put it on and he didn't like it, so he took it out and he did the hair again, and then he put it back on. He didn't like it. He tilted it. He still didn't like it. He tilted it again. It's just like he just doesn't want to leave. And then he, after everything that he's ready, he still doesn't want to go.
Yeah, that's that.
Yeah, that's the end of it. Like for them, it's just where they hang out. That this is where they want to be. And then this guy, he's the head of all this all the barbershop place. He's been here the longest. Like he's been cutting hair since like he was in his teens. Like because he didn't go to high school. He didn't want to learn. He wanted to earn money and have a family. I think he had a girlfriend then. Like that's what he told me. Like he wanted to start a family. So he started early. So for him, this is like not exciting at all. Like he's been there, done that. But then he's very professional, meaning that for the customers, he would do anything. Like he asked them a lot of questions, like, do you like this length? Like, and then like this guy was on his phone and he was like waiting, just like waiting. But he was the grumpiest person after all the customers had left. I was so surprised by like the double-facedness of him. Like he was so professional, so kind when he was doing it, so patient. But the moment they left, he was like, ugh, like I'm so tired. I want soju, I want Somac, like I want to drink. And I thought that was very nice because like it shows how like for him, after all those years of having cut hair, like having been a barbershop man, like he's still very into it. Like that's his main thing. And he wants to respect it. And I thought that's something we should learn because, you know, like even I have never had a job for more than a year, like a singular one job. I keep coming in and out of jobs, and I feel like it's something to respect that they had something continuous going on. Yeah. And it's really hard to do. But anyway, yeah, this is the whole thing. This is the exhibition. And I titled it Gibberish because there's so much gibberish going on. Like I try to memorize all of it and note it down, but I can't because it's so much gibberish. It's just, but I feel like the gibberish is the really good stuff because it's like your unconsciousness coming out without you knowing that you spit it out to the world and you can't take it back. That's why it's so powerful, but it's still playful at the same time. And yeah, so this is it, and thank you so much for coming. Thank you. Cut.